All right, everybody, welcome to module number 8, the opioid narcotics. I want to say that I hope that you're doing well, and we are moving our way through. We just have 2 or 3 modules left that are specific to substance and drug classes, and then we're going to talk a little bit about treatment here in a few weeks, and our class will be kind of winding down now that we are about halfway through the semester, and I again hope that you're doing well. We come to, again, another module just like the last 2 or 3 modules, where the topic of this module, pretty straightforward, but very, very needed and very, very popular subject for us in this modern day, and it is the opioids. Sometimes we use the word narcotics, and sometimes those two terms are put together. The opioid narcotic substances. And the term opioid is kind of an interesting term. Literally, what it means is pain killing or pain numbing or lack of pain. So these are pain medicines or pain pills, medicines that substances that naturally have the effect when they are in the body, they go to the brain, they block out pain receptors so people don't have to experience physical pain. So they've been used in medicine for many, 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 many years, and there are 3 or 4 sort of main drugs and substances that I mentioned for you in your module that our textbook author talks about as well too. I'm just going to review some of the high points here real quickly in this little mini lecture, and then you can take some time to look through the lecture notes as well too. If you talk about opioid narcotics, you talk about morphine, you talk about heroin, usually you talk about um, opium, and then you talk about all the prescription narcotics that we have in our culture today. But it all starts with opium. My hunch is you probably have heard of opium. Opium is a naturally occurring poppy plant that we see, especially in South America, North Africa, and the Middle East. And so the poppy plant or the poppy flower is found all over the world. Maybe you have poppies or you've grown poppies before in your garden. Um, Opium poppies don't really grow as much in our part of the world. And the opium poppy is just a specific type of the poppy plant. And back in the day, many, many, many years ago, back in with the Native Americans, with Indians, with people again in South America, South American Indians, those people in North Africa and the Middle East, many, many years ago, one of the things they found was as they would harvest these poppy plants, these poppy flowers, these little pods, is that when they would cut them, that there was a white kind of a milk, kind of a resin inside. And that when they would get it on their fingers, it would numb, it would tingle, and that their fingers would numb. Wherever the white milk or resin got on their fingers, it would kind of numb it. And they learned that if they would chew it, it would make their mouth numb. And if they would put it on their skin, it would make whatever it touched on the skin did not burn it, just made it numb. It was like, and so when they would have burns and when they would have infections, they would take that white resin, that white poppy milk, they would put it on their skin. It would kind of give them relief. If they had a toothache, they would rub it on their gums. It would kind of numb almost immediately. As soon as it touched the skin, it had this powerful pain relieving kind of consequence. Well, one of the things over time they learned is that when you cut the pod of an opium poppy, that resin would dry fairly quickly. Once you left it out exposed to open air, it would dry and it would become kind of flaky. Well, at some point they learned that they would eat it, and when they would eat it, it would, again would have like some medicinal purposes. And then eventually someone decided to smoke it. Right? At some point, someone decided, hey, why don't we put it with tobacco? So they would take that dry resin of that opium poppy and they would put it in a pipe or a cigarette or a cigar, and they would smoke it. And at some point, someone realized that when you smoke it, it gave this powerful, almost immediate euphoric, numb kind of feeling. People would get real foggy and light in their thinking. It was real pleasurable. All their pain went away, all their care went away. They would kind of get almost kind of go like into a mild sleep kind of a trance, and they would kind of wake up after a little while and they would feel really, really good. And before long, they were craving it again. So that's where opium comes from. Opium has, again, like tobacco and alcohol, has a very interesting, powerful role in world history as far as the drug opium. And opium was sort of the first kind of drug, a naturally occurring drug with cocaine from the coca leaves. And people began to, and they realized if they smoked opium, it was more powerful. So people began to sell it. This is 100, 200 years ago. People began to sell it. It became in many, many ways kind of a worldwide drug, opium. Well, around that time, this is about 1800s or so, late 1800s or so, our medical technology was kind of catching up. And one of the things that researchers and chemists were learning to do was how to take natural substances like the opium, the milk in an opium poppy. They could sort of put it under a microscope and figure out how to make a synthetic version. They began to do that. And so physicians in Europe took opium and they developed a chemical form of opium that we call morphine. And morphine was really just an amped up version of opium. And they began to use it more for medicinal purposes. Um, Morphine, in a way, changed the way we do medicine in the Western world about 150 years ago. This powerful pain relieving medicine that could be used as an anesthetic. It could be used in higher doses to put people to sleep. The American Civil War happened in the 1860s, and morphine was just coming onto the scene at that time. And that was one of the first places it was used was in field surgery. So men would have soldiers would have shotgun blasts, or they would have shattered limbs, and as a way to kind of give them relief from their pain, to put them to sleep while they did surgery, they would use morphine. And so morphine began to become this powerful, and even today we still see it today. It has changed the way in which we do medicine as a way to help people to deal with this severe, severe pain after an accident, something in my body, some injury that I've experienced. So morphine is just really a synthesized version of opium. It's kind of amped up opium. Well, right after the Civil War happened, the chemists, some other chemists, took morphine and tried to make it more powerful and make it more useful. They added two chemicals to it, and they developed what today we call heroin. And so, again, here's the progression. Opium comes first. Morphine comes next. Morphine is just amped up opium. Well, and after morphine comes heroin. Heroin is just amped up morphine, right? And so one of the things that heroin was developed initially in the early 1900s as a like morphine, it was really designed by physicians to use in medicine and use in the treatment of injuries and pain relieving and anesthesia. But what they found out was that it was too dangerous, that people would overdose on it easily. They would try to give heroin to people, synthetically as an anesthesia, and they would have cardiac arrests, for example, back in the early days of surgery. And so they began to realize that, morphine is going to be about as good as we can do as far as a powerful sedative and a powerful narcotic. So heroin stopped being used in medical settings, but it became more of a street drug. And even today, we see 100 years later or so, we see heroin today as a powerful sedative, hypnotic, excuse me, a powerful opioid narcotic that is available really more as a street drug. And today people have learned how to create it and to develop it themselves on the black market. So heroin, you're familiar with heroin. Heroin, one of the most addictive street drugs that is available today. And people have struggled for many, many years in dealing with heroin addiction. And so these substances, just like opium, goes back to opium. Naturally, the body builds up a tolerance for them, and oftentimes the withdrawal symptoms are so powerful and so painful that people are crave it, and it drives them back to use it again to take away those withdrawal symptoms. So heroin now today is more basically a street drug, and so those three that chronology is important to kind of understand with this drug class: opium, then morphine, then heroin. And then really the other way we see these opioid narcotics today is with all of the pain medicine that we have at our disposal today when we go to the doctor or when we go to the hospital. So you're familiar with oxycodone or OxyContin, or you're also familiar with Vicodin. Those are the two biggest ones. And again, I put some information in the lecture notes this week. You're familiar that one of the things that we've seen, this is one of those areas, I mentioned this earlier in this class, actually this semester, that the opioid narcotic medicines, Vicodin and oxycodone, others like them, similar to them, are now suddenly, because they're highly addictive and they're highly powerful, they have become street drugs as well too, as people especially go doctor shopping. And so if you know some of the history is that in certain parts of our nation, not every single state regulates the prescription of medications and oversees doctors as closely as other states. So the state of Florida is the one we hear about the most often. It has some of the most lax kinds of rules. And what's happened in the last few years, you probably have heard this if you ever watched the news or documentaries or reality TV, is especially, for example, I use Florida as an example, especially in Florida, you have all these pain clinics that have popped up. And doctors come in, and really what they do is they prescribe pain medicine to people. And the people who are coming in oftentimes are using it for themselves, but then they're also too selling it to someone to deal for them, and then that's a way for them to make a lot of money. And so the issue of pill popping and doctor shopping, especially not just, but is especially built around these prescription opioid narcotics that, if taken appropriately, have some limited ability to harm us. But again, even taken as prescribed, we have to be kind of careful about them. I was talking in a class not long ago, last semester, about substance use disorders, and we were talking about the word substance and how we sometimes use the word substance today to talk about pain pills. And the word substance encompasses many things that we don't think about when we think about drugs. And after the class was over, I had two students who came to me, and they were just sharing with me their own personal experience. One was a personal experience of theirs, and another was a loved one. And both of them were just talking about prescription pain pill addiction. And one of the students said, that's why I'm here studying to be an LCDC. Is, I've never been an alcoholic. I've never been addicted to cocaine. I've never been addicted to heroin. I've been addicted to pain pills. And that's what I'm in recovery for. And he shared how he went in for a legitimate surgery. I think it was a knee surgery. And how he said my pain medicine was not managed well, and I was able to. He said you'd be shocked how easy I was able to manipulate my doctors to get more medicine. And I just kept telling them I was hurting. They were like, okay. And he said I wound up getting hooked on pain medicine, and almost, he said, just literally almost killed me. And he said, by the grace of God, I'm here today. I'm in recovery. It's why I'm here studying to be an LCDC. He shared with me in private. A classmate of his was standing next to him as he talked, and she said, your story is my boyfriend's story. She said, except my boyfriend got hooked on him off the street. She said he never had any kind of surgery or anything like that. She said, but my boyfriend, she said, he was working in a construction situation. He worked for a construction company, and he said some of his coworkers on the side were dealing prescription pain medicine from the construction sites. And she said he got introduced to prescription pain medicine that way. She said he today is in recovery, thankfully, but she said for years he struggled with prescription pain addiction, prescription pill addiction. And she said it's an easily hid addiction. She said he went to work every single day. And she said, it's one of those hidden addictions sometimes, is the prescription pain pill, prescription opioid narcotic pain pill addiction. And so important for us to be aware of. And again, those substances kind of fill out our understanding of just this module of the opioid narcotics. So again, opioid narcotics, anytime you hear the word narcotic or you hear the word opioid, it means pain relieving or pain killing. These pain medicines that we oftentimes naturally see. So again, opium, morphine, heroin, and the prescription pain medicines. I give you a little more information in your lecture this week about doctor shopping and some other kinds of issues that we have, and the idea that they relieve these medicines relieve pain, but there's oftentimes many associated related problems that come with them as well. So as always, go look at your lecture notes. Look at the textbook information for this module. Do your discussion question. Do your homework. Get ready for our next quiz. I will see you next time. Have a good one.